coming up on this episode. But what do you reckon? Give it a score out of 10 as a final.
Go on, Luke, you go first.
Oh, it's got to be about. I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go with. So keep on listening to get our thoughts about the DBF Pokal Cup Final. Hello, welcome to the DraftCast. This week, Laurence returns to discuss the events of Game Week 34 and the DBF Pokal Cup Final. How are you doing, Laurence?
I'm very well, Luke. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Glad to have you back.
Great to be back. It's been a while.
It has. Roughly, what will be 9 game weeks or so? I think that's how it would rotate.
I think the last time I was on, it was the cup draw at the cup that I got knocked out from in the first round. So interesting to be back to be commenting on the final.
Well, it's only fitting, as you know, we are the only other finalists in the group, so from the El Presidente Cup, so we know what it's like.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be. It's nice to be part of the winners' enclosure. William sent me an invite for the winners' enclosure WhatsApp group, which I look forward to seeing who else gets to join that at the end of the season.
So it's just you and him in this group at the moment.
Yeah, we have obviously lots to talk about. But he's gone ahead and created a group, so fair play. It's great to be in there, but a bit lonely at the moment. So look forward to welcoming the winner of the league eventually.
I expect nothing less from Will. To be fair, that's something for everybody else to aim for to get into. To the point where we're all
Absolutely.
in it, and then we've got 2 groups with everybody in it. So we'll have a look at the league table from this game week, and we'll have a look at your team as well, and then we'll do a review of the cup final. So looking at the league table, it's a bit of a decent week all round, really, considering Adam with the highest score of 67, and unfortunately Jack with the lowest score of 32, which does, as you may now know, means he did lose the final to William. But we'll talk about the final later on. But yeah, in terms of everybody else, pretty decent week. Lots of 40s, even a 55 from Tolly.
It wasn't a full game week, was it? From memory, I think I had 8 or 9 playing in the end. And actually, the United Liverpool game meant that I lost 2 midfielders in Rashford and Jota. So that was it was kind of annoying, but it was also quite good because Jota was benched. So I don't know if he would have come on and scored, but maybe when that game's replayed, I'll get some. Maybe Jota will start and get some more points than maybe I would have done if the game had gone ahead. But yeah, Adam obviously had a very good week with, I think Bale got a hat-trick, didn't he? Scored 20 plus points. And just obviously that trade that he had with Will where he picked up Evans as well was good for him. And
yeah,
I think Werner scored as well, did he? Or got an assist? Yeah, he got an assist, and Watkins had a good week as well. So yeah, really good week for Adam. And Tolly obviously had a very good week as well with Aurier, which was a big surprise actually, given he's such reliability, but he performed well.
Yeah.
In that game. So, and he picked up Torres, I think, from the agency who scored. So that was a really good shout given the Champions League semis against PSG. He expected rotation, and Mahrez got dropped and obviously didn't play, but then scored 2 in the Champions League semi-final. But Torres did play and scored, so that was good. And seems like DCL's starting to hit some form again, back in with the goals. Yeah, given the way the week was sort of projected to turn out, there were some really good points in there. And even Jack's 32 is not horrendous for a game week. So yeah, no, really good overall.
Yeah, and like you say, because it was we were a game short this week. The scores you wouldn't really, if you looked at those scores, you think, oh, all the teams have played, but it's quite interesting, isn't it? Even though 2 teams didn't play, people have done really well considering.
There's a bit of a gap. There's a bit of a gap between 1st and 10th now. Nearly 200 points, but between 1st and probably 7th, which is me, it's not horrendous. It's sub 100 points.
Yeah.
And actually between Team Row, Wacky Whipnuts, probably down to Will, Gareth Northgate, it's it's definitely still doable with the remaining game weeks to turn that around. So it'll be really interesting to see how United play this next triple game week, because you would expect rotation, but there are certain players in that United team that continuously play. And then what they might do is just not train. They might, Fernandes, will he play 90 minutes of 3 games? Potentially. Particularly given the last game is against Liverpool. I'd imagine he'd play in that game. So, yeah, I mean, there's been some shady trading going on in the group, but it'd be interesting to see how that triple and double game week pans out next week, and how that table shifts. I think whoever you've got on next week, it'll be an interesting review to see how those the red and green arrows move around from this week to next.
I think you're right. These final game weeks coming up to the end of the season is going to be interesting for those top 4. Potentially, I know James wants to think that he's in the running in 5th, but it's going to be a good run in, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very much, as the group has said a couple of times, that seem to think I'm on the beach. I'm still there fighting quite a few injuries at the same time. So
yeah,
took a risk bringing it, I'm sure we'll talk about my team, but took a risk bringing Connolly coming back from injury, hoping he'd play, and he didn't. So I need to think about my striking options going into this next game week.
Yeah, so you've made a good segue there, Laurence. Let's carry on talking about your team. So a decent score, actually, 47. It's above average for the game weeks. Yeah,
and that's without Jota and Rashford, I guess. And then Connolly didn't play at all, so that was an utterly useless waiver that I picked up. But Mendy was a free agency waiver as well, so I picked him up. And Brighton, for some reason, seemed to get clean sheets. So Sanchez has had a really good run in goal, which has been nice to see. And yeah, Tottenham, Son's actually had a few goals disallowed recently for VAR, so nice to see him back on the score sheet. And Toby Alderweireld got a clean sheet and seems to be back in favour at Tottenham now. Mourinho's gone, so probably hold on to him. I think we've got Leeds coming up, so interesting to see whether they can bounce back or whether Tottenham can win and keep a clean sheet. Annoyingly, Fofana got subbed after 45 minutes, which I thought was a bit odd, but anyway, that was a bit of a strange one. And Cresswell was back from injury, albeit conceded and didn't get any assists. So yeah, overall it was not too bad. I think Wilfred Zaha's an interesting one. Do I keep him or get rid of him? But Palace's running, I think, is quite good. So gonna stick with it and see how he gets on.
Yeah, it's interesting now, isn't it? When you look at the last 4 game weeks and what teams have left to play, it's trying to find those that have got a decent run in that are hopefully going to score well. I'm
just hoping that Danny Ings comes back from injury.
Yeah,
he's sort of 50% at the moment. I'm not too worried about the Liverpool game next on Saturday, but he might be back for the Tuesday game against Palace. So I might start him just on the basis that I expect him to play 1, and then they've got Fulham after that. So there's potentially points if he can stay fit. But he's been so in and out all season, and it sort of sums up a lot of my players this season. Really, sort of getting injured, dropping out, and I've always sort of stuck with Jimenez, hoping he'd come back, given he won me the cup. But I think even at this point, I'm accepting that he's probably not going to make it back this season, and he's just been sat in my bench for since November. But yeah. It's all good. It's all good.
I imagine there's going to be something said about that in our end of season presentation.
I hope it's the most loyal award goes to me for sticking with him, given his off the post assist in the semis against Tolly in the cup. I think he deserves, that's the very least he deserves for his contribution towards silverware, which is more than what a lot of people achieved this year. Actually, more than
it's true.
Anyone bar one winning the league. So yeah.
So as we record this, we're almost at the time for the waivers to go through. So I think it's fair for us to have a conversation about who you've got lined up.
Oh dear, Luke. Well,
or have you forgotten and not done it?
No, I've not forgotten. I had a quick look just before this, but I've not planned it too much, just given stuff going on at work and just been super busy. But my number 1 pick is Lindelof, given the 3-game week this week, triple game week. And I'm going to take out Mendy, which is a bit of a risk, given he got 12 points last week and probably City rotating. But, I think in my back 4, who else would I get rid of? Definitely not Cresswell. Probably not Alderweireld against Leeds, because I think that's potentially a clean sheet, because Leeds have been struggling a bit recently. Fofana's on a double game week, so he's played pretty much every game for Leicester in recent memory. He's been dropped. He's been not been dropped, but he's been subbed off a couple of times recently. But he's always been a consistent starter, so I'm probably going to take a risk and keep him in there. And Everton have got West Ham and Villa. Again, a double game week, so I'll probably hold on to Holgate. So I've got Lindelof lined up, obviously as my first proposed pick, and then my second is Benteke, which I think Adam would already go for anyway. So I don't foresee myself getting Benteke. And then I've also got Bellerin for Arsenal, who's on a double game week for Mendy, and went for Joel Ward from Palace because they've got a really nice run in towards the end of the season, and he's also on a double game week, so he's played 90 minutes most games. So I brought him in earlier on in the season. He got dropped, so thought maybe give it another go, see if he comes in. But yeah, not really done anything on the striker front. Have you got any recommendations on strikers, Luke?
Absolutely not.
No. Let's have a
That's
look.
one of the things I've struggled with pretty much the whole season is strikers.
Yeah, because Abraham's not being selected.
No.
Martial's obviously been injured for, although he's due back in a couple of weeks, but after the triple game weeks, it's probably a bit pointless bringing him in. And the rest is just absolute shite. Ayew, Barnes. I know Barnes did well for Tom for a couple of game weeks, but then got dropped for Vidra. Yeah, I don't know, unless I'm missing something obvious. Davis for Villa, maybe he's come on, but not really. No. Yeah, so that's pretty much my waiver choices. So we'll find out in 4 minutes as to whether they come through. We might still be on the pod league.
We'll still be on. We'll still be going when they whilst they go through. So I'd either mute your phone before it all blows up, or just put it to one side.
Yeah. My phone's next door because I can't be dealing with the 1,000 WhatsApp messages notifications from the chat whilst on the pod.
Yeah. So okay, I think that covers your team. Yeah. Now we'll do the part everybody's looking forward to. Hopefully. The DBF Pokal Cup Final review. It was somewhat of a, I don't know what your opinion is on it.
It wasn't as exciting as the previous Cup Final in terms of how close it was. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, which team do you want to start with, Will or Jack?
Yeah. So what I've done is I think we'll start. Well, it's not really starting with one team. I've got both teams lined up next to each other, and we can see how their points tracked as the game week went on.
Yeah, that's clever.
So in the first game week, neither had any players play, so there's nothing really to talk about in the Saints-Leicester game. In the second game, Jack had 2 players, but Silva didn't play, so he didn't get any points. And Sterling didn't really do anything; he just got the 3 points. And obviously Laporte was clean sheet, so he's got 6 points.
It's a strange one because Laporte has not really played for City, and it's always been Diaz and Stones. But obviously with the Champions League, he's come in and kept a clean sheet. So Will's been quite not fortunate. He's obviously thought about that from a selection perspective, but given the amount of game time he's had to come in and actually get a clean sheet is quite good for Will. And Sterling's been so hit and miss all season, really. I think I had him at the start of the season and traded him out. So. Yeah, he's not really full of confidence at the moment, which is a bit of a shame given the Euros coming up in the summer. But you would have expected a bit more from him over the course of the season, and he's let Jack down a little bit there in the final.
Yeah, definitely. And then in game week 3, Brighton versus Leeds, Jack only had Harrison, who just got him the 2 points, and Will. I mean, this game's probably with a bit of decider here, and you can see from the chart, the jump in points he got from this one game with a clean sheet from Dunk and a decent 12 points from Welbeck, which I presume is a goal and bonus points, or maybe an assist as well. I'm not sure actually how the 12 is made up. But
goal and assist and bonus, I think. Yeah. So he would have played the full match. This again was a weird one because you would have thought Leeds would score, and that's what I'm thinking about this game week coming up with Tottenham. A Leeds just in a bit of a dip where they're just not still creating, but just not converting their chances potentially. Yeah. I didn't actually see the Brighton Leeds game, but for Brighton to win 2-0 at home, I mean, Brighton they play some really good football, but they are where they are in the league, or have been in the league most of the season for a reason. And a lot of it's not sort of converting their chances and then just conceding stupid goals. They actually play quite well against some of the bigger teams as well. So, yeah, obviously in this game, I'm not sure Will would have predicted a 2-0 Brighton win against Leeds. To get what's that 12 and 8, 20 points from Dunk and Welbeck, pretty unheard of. Dunk, in fairness, when he does keep clean sheets, he probably gets bonus points because he's he wins everything in the air. Aerially, he's very, very good at hitting the ball. And Welbeck, I mean, he's been in and out of a few teams. He's been in my team this year. When he has played, he's got points. He's got won penalties. He's taken penalties. He's scored goals. But he's also been injured for a lot of the season. So Morpay has probably played up top, and he's not scored any goals. He's been a bit naff as well. I think I traded him to Tolly with Bowen. But yeah, Welbeck's come in and sort of taken his chance and not just scored but assisted and got the 3 bonus. That's like you can see from that graph has taken Will into a big lead going into the next fixture.
Yep. So next one, like you say, is Chelsea versus Fulham. Jack with Chilwell and Alonso giving him 7 points in total, and just a 2 for Will. Everton versus Villa, just a 2 for Jack, and a good 10 points for Will in that game as well.
Yeah, again, you think Richarlison is, last season he was brilliant. This season he's been a bit up and down, and I think recently, last couple of weeks, he's started to come back into a bit of form, but, just not him and Sterling. You'd want them to be gathering some points in a cup final for you. And if both of them aren't firing, you get to after the 5th game, you start to worry a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where I think there's a lot of controversy around the final, where we get to the Man United-Liverpool game. Now, obviously, if you're a football fan, you'll know this game didn't go ahead. And I don't really want to go into why. And well, I don't know. Do you want to talk about why the Man United game didn't go ahead, Laurence?
I mean, we can talk about it. I mean, I sort of missed in the group as to how the conclusion was drawn to why the points from that game don't count towards the final. I mean, ultimately, it might not have really mattered given the final point. So maybe that's part of it,
Yeah, I mean, I was on the team of move the final to a different game week.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that it could only have been the final game week, because that's the only other game week now we have where all 10 teams are playing.
But could you not just defer the result of the final to when the United-Liverpool game was replayed, which is actually going to be next week?
You could have done.
Obviously, we may not have known that at the time, right? But maybe within that week, you sort of build a bit of tension. It's all sort of on that final game. It would be quite an interesting end to the final. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how that conclusion was drawn, but it's controversial. And I mean, how or why it happened, I mean, we'd have to go into the detail. We all know it's about the European Super League and, fans sort of breaking into or being let into the ground to protest by stewards because they were not being confrontational. It is what it is. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know how that decision came about because I missed it. But
well, effectively, we tried to do a vote. So we did a vote. Everyone did a private vote to James, and he totted him up. And it was only ever going to be a draw, he said. So he was saying, as the president, his vote was which way it swayed. So they ended up playing on. I suppose it's interesting because they both had 2 players not play. So it's not like one person was favoured by having that game not play. They both lost out on 2 players playing. But I'm not sure about that one.
Which 2 players did they both have? Which players were they?
So for Jack, it would have been Salah and Robertson.
Yeah, versus Fernandes and Cavani.
Yeah.
I mean, Cavani's on, shit hot form, and Fernandes is Fernandes. So, yeah, I mean, would it have changed the outcome? I don't know. You'll never know, right? But it'd be interesting to see after this next game week gone what the final cup score would be, and then we can just put it to bed.
Yeah, I think you're right. It could be interesting, couldn't it? If Jack ends up scoring loads of points to the point where he would have overtaken Will if he added the points from that game into this, then that's when it gets controversial. Probably.
Yeah, that would be. I'm sure the president will just take over and make whatever decision he wants to make. But it'd be interesting to see what the other league members think about that if that were to happen.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. When's that game being played?
It is. I think it's the Thursday, the 13th of May. So it's a week today.
All right. So in a week's time, we'll know what's going on with that then. But yeah, carrying on. Game 7 was Newcastle Arsenal. Jack only had Wilson play.
Wilson.
Yeah.
You think Wilson again is? I know he's come back from injury, and he's just finding his feet, but he was had a really good start to the season until he got injured. Right the way up until he got injured, and obviously now he's come back and he's still finding his feet. So, yeah, again, Jack probably would have relied on him for a goal in the cup final to boost his points tally.
Yeah, exactly. Game 8 was Spurs and Sheffield. Jack had clean sheet points from Reguilon, which is good. Only 2 points from Kane, which I think is quite surprising. I think we all expected Kane there to be a high scorer for Will. Not that he needed him in the end, but it's just interesting, wasn't it? There seemed to be a lot of hype about what Kane was going to do in that game and ended up not doing anything. Bale stole the show.
Yeah, Bale Son as well, right? Yeah, just got all the points. And actually no assist for Kane, which is really surprising. Even if he doesn't score, he tends to assist. So, yeah, not that he's going to be dropped, but Will obviously didn't need him in the end. But you probably would have expected more from him in that game.
Yeah. Game 9 was West Brom v Wolves. And I think, unfortunately for Jack, Wolves conceded, so he only got the 4 points in total. Will didn't have anyone playing or anyone scoring in that game. And then in the final game, again, Jack got 6 points from Wood. I think he scored. And then it's just the 4 points from Will. So sort of Jack at the end in the last 3 games was outscoring Will, but it was just too little too late, really.
Last 3 games? Yeah. So if he outscored Will in that United game by 12 points, we could be sat here with having a very different conversation, couldn't we?
Yeah. So I think that's what I was saying. Like when we get the points from that game for the players they have, it'll be interesting to see where these totals will lie. So maybe we'll have to do that and do a controversial pod on who should have won the cup. I don't think that'll go down very well, but yeah, it would be funny to do. Just
don't give Will his trophy until we've sorted out.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. That was the final. I think there was some good points scored by mainly Will there, but Jack had a few good clean sheets to keep him in the running. But what do you reckon? Give it a score out of 10 as a final.
Go on, Luke. You go first.
Oh, it's got to be about. I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 10 for a final.
6 out of 10. Yeah. I think 6 is fair. I think the controversy of the United game probably added a bit of flavour in the chat.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as close as some of the other cup rounds have been, and obviously the first cup. But that's cup football. You just never know
exactly
what's going to happen. Unless you're Man City and win the Carabao Cup 4 years in a row.
Yeah. I think my score might change depending on what happens in the actual Man United-Liverpool game next week. If those scores then turn around and it's like 1 point in it, and Jack's taking it, then it gets really interesting. But at the moment, when you compare it to the El Presidente Cup, the final we had, it went down to like the last 15 minutes of the final game, didn't it? For you to nick it by 1 point. So that's like really good
penalty.
Cup football. So yeah,
it'll be there'll be a lot of pressure on the leadership of the league if Jack does turn it around. So I think we have to watch this space and see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think both cups have been a great addition to the league. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing them next year. We've got the what are they calling it? The shield on the first game week.
Community Shield.
Yeah.
We've
got that to look forward to as well. So that'll be you and Will then, will it?
No, so that's the league winner against the FA Cup winner, which the committee have opted for this particular cup to be the FA Cup and the previous cup to be the equivalent of the Carabao Cup. So it'll be Will against whoever wins the league. And if that's Will, I'd imagine it defaults to runner-up or myself. I don't really know, how they've done it, but I'm sure they'll be able to shed some light on the group to let you know.
Yeah.
Do you think? How do you feel about the concept of relegation?
Oh, this is a good question. Now we're going somewhere. I think it does add a different dynamic to the league for sure. But I think to do it, we would need to find 10 other people who would be happy to sit in a league that we would effectively be saying that league is the Champions League to our Premier League, which I think would be kind of weird setup to do. unless you do a pool of players, and if you get relegated, you don't play for a year. But then how do you come back in? No, I don't know how you would do that.
Could you not have a two-tier structure where there's almost like a luck of the draw, a draw at the start that determines whether you're in League One or League Two in the first season. And let's say you get 16 people together, you do like 2 leagues of 8, and you have 2 separate drafts. So 2 separate draft rooms at the start where all the top players are picked out across 2 different leagues, and then you sort of compete within those leagues, and then you can have a proper FA and Carabao Cup across those leagues. I think what's interesting about it is that we're all sort of ranting and raving about the European Super League, yet we don't have relegation, and that's the whole premise of competition doesn't exist within the draft. So maybe that'll turn heads a little bit, but I think it could be quite interesting because you almost have these like mini leagues where people are competing against others for different periods of time, and you could have that concept of almost like a sort of reframe the cup competition to include teams from both leagues. I think Adam was definitely in favour of this at one point. We spoke about it, but I don't think it's been discussed, and maybe it's something to consider for the future.
I mean, we'll be up to 12 people next season, so whether we did 2 of 6, I don't know if 6 is enough. This first season was 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was, and I don't think it's.
How did you find that? Because you were part of that first season, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I've been involved right the way through. I think you almost want to have 8, so you've got the best players and more selected. I think it keeps it really tight and really close. Like the points difference now with 10 is not ridiculous between, like we talked about at the start, 1st and 7th, 1st and 8th, and you've got this little gap at the bottom, but it's not huge, and it's quite nice to keep it competitive. You don't want people to be at the bottom for the whole season and then lose interest and not really be involved. So I just think if we're learning any lessons from the European Super League for the draft, what would they be? And maybe adding that additional competitive element would be good. I don't think you should go down the route of relegating people and then blocking them from joining for a year, because it takes all the fun out of it for that person, I guess. And you don't want that. You want it to be inclusive, but maybe there's a way around that potentially of having like a 2-tier system.
I was just thinking if we didn't have enough people to create 2 leagues, how would you introduce it now? That's where it's a bit.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to go down the 2 groups of 6, although I'm sure we'd find an extra couple if we absolutely needed to. I can think of a few that maybe would want to get involved anyway. So, I think 12 is probably the max we could do within the current format. I think it's something we'd have to change to add others. That's my view, but I'd be intrigued to see what the others think.
Well, we'll definitely maybe we can do a special episode on that one time.
We'll have to get the leadership team on to discuss their breakaway league plans. No, I like that. That's a good question. And if you're listening and you've got your thoughts on it, leave a comment down below on what you think we should do. It does raise a lot of questions, I think, and I think there's definitely advantages to it. I'm struggling to think what would be such a disadvantage not to do it, because like you say, it adds that competitiveness in it. And it's a good question, Laurence. Good question. There you go.
So I think we'll wrap it up there. Unless you've got any other controversial questions you want to discuss.
No. I think that's it from me. Good to be back on, Luke, and thanks for having me. And I probably won't speak to you now until next season.
Always an honour to have you on, Laurence. Well, who knows? I've got ideas about what to do over the season. Maybe tie in with the Euros. So you never know, Laurence. You may be called back on.
Very good. Well, just give me a shout. I'm more than happy to come back and chat anything football.
Great stuff. That's what we like to hear. So thanks for listening, everybody. Please remember to subscribe and like the video. It really does help us out a lot. And all I've got left to say is this is the DraftCast. And remember, draft is life. See you next time.